in your mind when you think about health? It doesn't have to be in a spiritist center, just in general. What do you think about health? What is the words that come to your mind, or sentences, values?
Eating good.
Eating good. Yes.
Feeling strong.
Feeling strong.
Exercising.
Exercising. So exercising, eating good, feeling strong, this is good. Sleeping good also. Anything else?
Eating healthy.
Eating healthy.
Balance. Balance.
Balance. What kind of balance?
Emotional balance.
Emotional
body
balance. Body balance. Yes, yes. Very good. So it's very connected to what we're going to see a little later. Anything else? The
Spiritual health.
spiritual
Good
health.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Good thoughts.
Good thoughts. Yes. Whoa. So, okay. I think we... Anything else that we're missing? We kind of have
Having energy. That's what I want.
Energy.
Energy.
Energy. What kind of energy?
Well, so that you don't feel tired.
So, energized. kind of.
Energized, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Did anybody say something else? Okay, good. Yeah, so here we have an athlete from the Olympics, and they kind of have a symbol of health. They do a lot of exercise, they do it good, and they're supposed to have emotional balance, not always, but probably better than the average. Hopefully they have take care of their spiritual health. They're energized for sure. Imagine running and jumping like this, so far away. Okay, and Joanna and Angelis, kind of like together with Emmanuel, while Emmanuel goes and explain the gospel in the modern thoughts, newer words, and according to Spiritism, which Allan Kardec and through superior spirits in the 1857 with the Spiritist books, and after that, throughout this around 10 years, brought a lot of new concepts to humankind, or maybe they didn't create the concepts, they just brought in a more organized way. And Joanna de Angelis, in this book, she goes and she kind of talk about what is health. And she says, yes, true health includes the organic health, so our organs working good, properly, with the right amount of energy, the food that creates the energy, and all the balance, the physical balance, but it goes beyond that. So this is the health that we want to build for the new era, us, in this planet, which is becoming a regeneration planet. So we can seek to understand more, not just the physical health, but the spiritual health. And what else does she say? So it goes beyond. So it goes to the emotional balance and the inner serenity that comes when we understand the meaning of our life and when we are aligned with the meaning of our lives. So each one of us is given a mission by God, and this mission is this meaning of our life, to fulfill this mission. And most commonly, the mission starts with myself, forgiving myself, let go the guilt from my past mistakes, and use my potentials. Some might be good, play guitar, painting, talking, programming, building houses, making houses beautiful, taking care of people, healing. So each one of us, we have our talents, and it's part of our mission to use these talents to be something useful for me first and for the others. And then goes the mission around our families, in the community, helping others, being patient, teaching our kids to become better people. So these are very important missions on our lives. And finally, it goes also beyond to our aspirations. So we want to go, always we want to do something better. So if I like to play guitar, I always want to learn more, and maybe I want to have better techniques. Maybe I want to be able to inspire others through the music. And it goes infinite. Even the best guitar player in the world, he probably has so much more to learn. He can go to maybe other instruments, or even more beautiful songs that inspire people. And so this first part is kind of quick. So the next one is sickness. It's kind of easy because we already went through the health, and sickness is kind of the opposite. So any more words you guys have in mind for sickness, illnesses? What comes to your mind?
Vices.
Vices. What kind of vices?
Smoking.
Smoking. So it can have
Overeating. Drinking.
overeating, drinking,
Talking bad about other people.
talking bad. Wow! There is a very good symphony because I was going to talk about this later. And Joanna and Angelis talk about that. Yes. When she said overeating, it's interesting because eating is healthy. But why overeating is not healthy? So everything has a balance. And so here we have a picture because in the text that Kitty read, I'll go back to the question later. Emmanuel says that you may want to hear our vessels. In the other translation, he used the word vehicle. And this is kind of what our body are. Our bodies are. Our bodies are the vehicles of the soul. So we are not this body. I don't know if you guys know. I hope everybody knows. Maybe the little kid might not know, but we all are gonna one day discard it. So this body stays here. It's gonna be transformed. It's gonna be used for nature. Hopefully the good organs gonna be donated. That's another reason for being healthy, because you may save other lives after you go to the next one, right? And even here, you don't need to die to save other lives.
No.
Like beautiful examples that we know. And in this car, what's happening to the car here? The bottom. It's leaking oil. But isn't oil good for the car? So lack of oil is bad. Yes. Yeah, so lack of oil is good for the car? No. So the car needs oil for the engine to work smoothly. But not sitting oil is not good. It can even go in flames because the car has the heating system. So Joanna and Angelis, now making the connection, so she talks that these diseases, they are a result of over how would I say, for exceeding, assessing in some kind of energy or lack of energy, like depression, you feel down, and this starts in the spirit, which we are through our thoughts, like somebody said over there. And as we're thinking and as we're feeling the emotions, and as we do this with intensity and with a repetition, eventually, as the spirit affects the cosmic universal fluid, which is the matter, everything including the spiritual matter, and our spiritual body is affected first. So our spiritual body receives the impression of the spirit, and then later, through the time and through the repetition and intensity, it becomes affects our body. So back to Mirtis, when she said talking bad, Joanna de Angelis. So she later on this book, she goes and she talks about the program of health, and she gives an example of if you have the habits of talking bad, the mind starts to create. I'm reading Portuguese and translate real time, so I'm sorry for that. First, create this unbalance on our body and also on our perceptions. So, if you create the habit of talking bad, what's going to happen is we're going to start to wear some filters internally that we start to see the bad things in the world and especially our life. So there is a connection in talking bad as a habit and perceiving our life as something negative. And then continuing doing this as the vices of talking bad and seeing bad and listening, only hear the bad things, only see the bad things that happen to us. Forget about all the good blessings that we have every minute and focus on the challenges. And then later we reflect in our health. So she talks about some disturbance in the gastric system, and can I say hepatic, the liver? Okay, so that would be my Brazilian to English, Portuguese to English. Sometimes it's not the same way, but this time it was. And so this is an example how the explanation how the disease comes from the soul, comes from our habits. And then healing. So if your baby is feeling sick and you don't know how to help her to get better, what's the first place you bring her? To the doctor. So Spiritism never tells us not to go to the doctor. Please go to the doctor. That's the first pathway. Sometimes if it's mild, we can get healed by ourselves. If we have a good diet, if we have energy, and sometimes the excess or the absence of what we need, we can't do it by ourselves, and then we go to the doctor. And it's also interesting that Spiritism, Allan Kardec said that if science finds something that I wrote that is wrong, please follow science. And as far as I know, science haven't found anything wrong. Science was not able to prove everything, but didn't prove anything that he said was wrong. And interestingly is many things that were not, science wasn't able to prove in the past, that was written by Spiritist books, science has proven later. So the example, a more recent example is André Luiz and some of his books. He was a doctor, and after he discarnate, he's studying things from the spiritual world, and he wrote books for Chico Xavier. And 30 years later, so some books were written in the 1950s, the scientist was able to prove, for example, about the pineal gland. And related to the topic of this night, other types of healing, like spiritual healing, it's not really a creation of Spiritism. It's present on many different societies through many different times. And even Jesus, there are so many beautiful examples, like Jesus healing just by hand imposition, or sometimes not just by his natural love, the magnetic love that he had. Like the lady, she touched his clothes because she really wanted, and she was ready for being cured, and she was ready to make the change that we're going to talk about next. And she was able to heal, something that the science couldn't do on her time. And here at Spiritist Center, usually we do have a passe, so everybody is invited. This shows how it works, not all the way how it works, but just for us to have a vision. Though the mediums are there doing their energy, but mostly the spiritual energy, which comes from the mentors of this house. And they prepare there. Actually, even right now, we might be already receiving this good energy that helps the substitution of the bad molecules on our spiritual body to the good ones. And this change will reflect on our physical body. And if you want to go deeper on this scientific part, it's recommended to go to the course. So we're probably going to talk about this in our course tonight. It's a systematic study of Spiritism. But you can also go, since the course now is kind of closed, it's a closed group, kind of have follow the series of chapters. So if you get in the middle, kind of get confused, you can go Allan Kardec in the Genesis according to Spiritism. And here, by coincidence, we are studying this on our group, and chapter 4 of part 2 of Paul Stephen, which is very related to what we study here at Jazz. It's a book that gives a very good example of inner reform from Paul, or Saul, that later he gave his name of Paul, and we are actually in the chapter where he changed his name to Paul. And it's thanks to this moment that what happens, I'm going to read what Paul says. So basically, the proconsul of one of Rome's say cities or districts, not sure, he's very sick, and the doctors of his time, Emmanuel narrates as the magician, could not help him to heal. And they were already going on the treatment for a long time, and he was getting good money, the proconsul was rich, but no healing. And then, Paul or Saul helps him to get healed, actually through Jesus' love. And before he goes, he introduces Jesus to him. So let's go back in time and listen from him. Noble proconsul, we do in fact have with us the power of a great doctor. We are able to heal if the sick are willing to understand and follow him. So who is the great doctor? He is Jesus He's Jesus Christ. Sorry, he says, he is Christ Jesus. His medicine is sacred. And it is meant to treat the cause of all ills. So remember, the cause of all ills. As we know, everybody on this earth will have to die. So due to the power of unavoidable natural laws, we will never enjoy complete physical health while in this world. Our body suffers the action of all environmental influences. Heat makes us uncomfortable, like last week. Cold makes us shiver. Food transforms us, like we said. And the acts of life determine changes in our habits. But the Savior teaches us to seek a more real and precious health, that of the Spirit. Enjoying the health of the Spirit means that we have changed the cause of our life's worries, and will therefore be able to enjoy the relatively good physical health that the world can offer us in its transitory expressions. But where can I find this doctor? His perfect goodness, explains Saul of Tarsus, and his consoling action is everywhere. Even before we understand it, he surrounds us with his infinite love. So who were here 2 months ago, the first Monday of, I think you guys were here, first Monday of June. So we're going to revisit some of the content, which is actually good because we'll also learn through repetition, and we're going to be able to go a little bit deeper. So first thing about reframing. In Portuguese, ressignificação, ressignificando. So reframing is the idea of, in psychology, of giving a new meaning. And here we're shown by the example, by image. So here, kind of conveying us, a person with thoughts, but the frame is kind of dark. So I remember somebody said something about depression. And then we're going to keep the same person there and the thoughts, maybe not the same thoughts, but it looks like the same. And just by changing the frame, kind of changes how the person is perceiving reality. And here we brought some example. I didn't bring them all, and we're not going to go as much as we did last time, so we're going faster. So for example, reframing the I can't. And here in the context of our inner reform, which is what's going to bring us the health that we're looking for, the spiritual health. So, yes, if I can't break gravity, that's the natural law. And I'm not inviting anybody to believe you can break gravity and go jump from the buildings. Don't do that. Please, unless if you have a parachute or if you have training to survive. But when it's matters of inside of ourselves, our emotions, our changes, then we can. And if we can't right now, then we can start to practice using the language of I'm learning, I want to change, and I am changing. And as we use new words, we start to see the reality in a different way, like Joanna and Angelis said, and we start to find the resources. And the other one is I have to. It's very common to say I have to forgive, have to love your neighbor. With our kids, you have to be nice. So how come how can love be done by obligation? So the same idea. We kind of learn it's good for us. It's Jesus saying the spirits that we take as mentors and many role models in life, they tell us. But we can't do by imposition. We can. That would be the pseudo-love. Like, I'm not doing because I want to do, but because I'm thinking about either a social mask or consequence or a specific condition. So we are invited to reframe the I have to for the I want to. And this is so powerful when I want to change. I don't have to change because I went to jazz and the guy over there told me. Because I want to be happy, I want to be good. So that changes everything. We become more powerful. And here I brought this example. It's a very sensitive. It's common to actually put on Google, between quotes, fighting cancer. And I believe I found about 500,000 results. So it's a very common word of our century. And the risk of this word, of this expression, is that we might be in a vulnerable state, physically, yes, but also spiritually and emotionally. And if we think about fighting, we don't usually send for the wars those sick soldiers, those who don't have energy, who don't have don't eat good, right? So we could start to use different words, accept the summons, convocação, summons, call or invitation that God gave us through the disease. So it's an invitation for us to reflect on our behavior, reflect on our values in life. And as we reflect, we can learn from it. And in the text that we read, Emmanuel says that it might be a challenge the first time we learn exactly what is the disease telling us. But we can do it, we can learn it. And eventually we can start to practice the change, and this change is going to eventually reflect in our health. If you remember the text, of course it's on God's permission. So it's worth, because if God knows that for me it's not time to get healed, the changes that I'm making now are going to make a difference in the future. Maybe a few years from now, maybe our next lives. So it's still worth to understand our diseases and our illnesses and work with them and transmutate them. And if we do have the good thoughts, the good emotions, and if we are making the changes, even if we don't heal, and we might heal, but we might make it better or live it in an easier way. So finally, the summons of the kingdom of God, which we already said a couple of times. So remembering that the word that is on the Bible, heal the sick who are there, and tell them the kingdom of God is near you. So this is Jesus telling the disciples. So he was not the only one who helped healing the people who were sick. The disciples did that too. And there were moments that they didn't have the faith. So faith is like the magnetic power, which will make it work. And so here Joanna de Angelis, the same book, she goes and she tells us that it's little by little. So just because I came here, just because I read this book, yes, now I'm healed. Now I'm a new person. I don't make the old mistakes. That would be good. That would be good. But if it doesn't happen like that, it's okay. It's little by little. And then with the patience and perseverance, so let's think about the metaphor of the soil that's very dry, and when we put water on it, if we put just one drop, it doesn't make so much difference, but if we keep putting the drop, the healthy drop is there, eventually the soil of our hearts starts to change. And then we put more drop of the good water, of the fountain, of the divine fountain. Eventually the soil is going to help the seeds to grow, and that's how we're making the changes. So back, and we're going to do an exercise, a different kind of exercise, and just some review on the knowledge of this book. Unfortunately, we don't have that in English yet. It's okay, we have other books. Later we're going to get there to this book in English, and we can already learn some concepts or review for those who are here. So we can understand ourselves as being psychological beings with the self and the ego. And the ego, we can see the ego in two parts, the evident ego. So in our essence, I have love, and I have all the divine laws inside of me. God is everywhere. Is there a place that God is not present? So if God is everywhere, is God also inside of us? Okay. I was just checking if I'm going the right path. So it's understood in Spiritism and now the consciential psychology that we have all the divine seeds of God inside of us in our essence. And once we don't practice the divine laws, eventually our ego, which we can feel like an energy, we can think about like energy around our essence, which starts to cover this essence and not let our divine essence to manifest. And sometimes we might want to lie to ourselves, unconsciously or not. So we lie to ourselves and we create masks that we start to believe that we are already perfect, or that we're not doing anything wrong, but not good, not doing bad, not doing good, it's already doing bad. And here just the idea that we can sometimes be more in the evident ego, sometimes more in the masked ego, and the same life or different lives, and the same day changes. And the goal is to raise on our essence. And so the first exercise is very quick, and we have about 30 seconds. Basically, so when we do this exercise, it's important to know that if you have mediumship and it's not well trained, or if you don't know that you have, don't go so deep. It might be harder to come back. And if you're not sure, just keep your eyes open. So feel free, if you would like, to close your eyes and access the law of permission that God gave you. So inside of you, there is all the knowledge of what you need to do to change. And ask yourself, in essence, which egoic movement do you want to change? Okay. If okay, so I can come back. When we are practicing our inner reform, it's kind of automatic. We already know what I want to change in me, and in this context, we can choose something that's related to our health. It doesn't have to be that. So is everybody awake? Okay, I gotta do the check. Specifically because of this technique, we don't want to just go deep in our mind. We can do this maybe therapy or self-therapy. I do myself at home, and it really is helping me to change. And so here, some remembering important steps of changing. So like we said, accept. So the same thing we do with the root causes of our problem, our ego movements, egoic movements. So we accept. So no judging yourself, no saying, justifying yourself, but recognize and accept. And then dissociate, desidentificar. We are not our ego. Ego is part of us, but we are the divine essence. And then transmutate this ego into the seeds of love, and all the seeds of the laws of God. And we identify ourselves with the self, the greater me, with the spirit which we are. So who remember this? Now it's a test. Okay, maybe some people don't. What is that? Panda. But here we brought it with a different concept. Does anybody remember what it was? Okay. When Alito came here, he used parda in Portuguese. So we had to translate. It was kind of hard to find parda in English. So we used pemda with M. Perceive, accept, meditate or reflect upon, decide, and act. So basically, the divine laws for change are embedded on this process. And this is like a technique for us to perceive our egoic movements, and we are practicing. Which virtue are we practicing when we perceive? Could it be sensitivity, our senses? We need kind of eyes. For the physical world, we need our eyes, our listening, our skin, and other of our senses. But we have much more senses if we are spiritually speaking. And then accept. Which divine law are we applying when we practice acceptance? Something attribute of God that we have in us. How about mercifulness? So practicing acceptance is practicing the divine attribute in us. So we have the seeds of mercifulness, of compassion. And then we meditate. which you can think the intelligence, who is the supreme intelligence of the universe?
God.
God, right? At least this is what the spirits tell us, and we choose to believe this. I choose to believe that's the best explanation I have got so far, and definitely we only will understand God many years in the future, but we can already start to understand some of it. So we also have the intelligence. Okay, that's an easy one. How about decide which law is embedded on the decision?
Free will.
Free will. Yeah, that's we are all aware of. Even if we are atheist, we kind of know the free will is like a law. And an act. So the law of work, of labor. Is there any moment that God stopped working? The supreme intelligence of the universe that created the universe. Not the God of the man who didn't understand who God was and tried to create the image of God of what man was. But the God who is perfect. Can a perfect being not be working, just being lazy? So we need to rest. We're not perfect. We need to rest. Especially our bodies. It's important part of our health is to rest. God doesn't have body. God doesn't need to rest. And so through this cycle, we can choose and to do this with the egoic movement that we chose earlier. And go through the cycle. We perceive and we practice acceptance. And then, so again, be careful not to judge yourself. When we judge, we can either condemn and punish ourselves, feel guilty, and this is also a mask, because when we feel guilty, when we are punishing ourselves, we are not making the changes, so we still have the problems on ourselves to work on. We can also go on the other side and say, no, it's not my fault. So we can judge ourselves and justify and not take any actions for changing. So we still have the root cause that God is going to send us other invitations for us to change. And we meditate, we kind of see what were the intentions of my behavior. Why do I do that? So talking about talking bad. Why do we talk bad? So when I ask myself sometimes, I kind of come with my personal answer, which I can share with you. Something like, I'm proud. When I talk bad about somebody else, it's kind of like saying I'm better. Because I know that's bad, so it's kind of like I change the focus to the other instead of looking at me and see that I have a lot of work to do. And it goes to the sim, how would I say that in English? O argueiro. No olho do outro. Does anybody remember that in English? So we basically we see the other people's. We see the other people's defects, but we don't see our own. And our own is so close to us that should be evident. So through meditating, through reflecting upon our daily actions, we're going to start to learn about ourselves, finding our potentials, our limitations, and then we have the choice to make a choice. We also have the choice not to make a choice and postpone and receive more other invitations from life for us to make the same choice of choosing to change. And then act. And act is every day, little by little with perseverance. So now, here we're going to do, so the previous exercise, hopefully we were already thinking as we were listening to the words and already worked a little bit on it, and you can work more during the class and doing at home. Again, the same invitation to practice this exercise, the PEMDA technique. And so here for now, this is also very powerful. It's very simple, so it needs repetition, like we mentioned before. So if you would like to go and close your eyes to finish the exercise for the lecture tonight. And once you remember, connect yourself in essence, remembering the egoic state you chose to work on. and you can tell yourself, this stage is trying to take hold of me. But I am much more than this stage. I am love. I am hope. I am health. I am serenity, humility, kindness, patience, perseverance, all the virtues we have inside of us. We are those virtues. Okay? Some people might ask, is everybody awake? Remember, get back. Some people might ask, aren't I lying to myself when I say I'm love and serenity? And there is a process. So yes, we're going to go through the process. We're only going to reach love like Jesus Christ, which was already perfect. When earth was created, he was already perfect. We're going to get there. We're going to have our planets far beyond the future to take care of. We're going to be perfect. We're going to continue to expand this family that we have here. But we have the seeds. And we have the power of connect to the seeds. So we don't need to wait for the perfection to connect to them. Actually, it's the opposite. It's by connecting to them, we're going to get to perfection. So here, we accept the invitation, the call from Jesus to follow his steps, to find this divine health that we are all deserve. And let's do the work. Let's study. Let's do our best. And here are some books that we can go for further studying. We already mentioned some of them. Well, to follow Jesus, a very good example is to understand the gospel and to practice. And Allan Kardec helped us to understand the gospel in gospel according to Spiritism. And the Spirit's book, many of the same things that we said were present in the Spirit's book. So that's it. Thanks everybody. So we are going to the passage now, so we can practice the self-healing while we receive the good energy. And later we're going to have some notes.